Oh, this is gonna be crazy. That was great. Hello everyone and welcome today to another episode of SpraynPray1000's Verdict. Today we are going to talk about a game I had such high hopes for, a game that pretty much dashed all those high hopes, and a game that at the time of writing, or time of reviewing, I have not even finished. And I'll explain why. Today we are going to talk about XCOM The Bureau. Let me say the official name. The Bureau XCOM Declassified is a game in the XCOM franchise. And for those of you who don't know what the XCOM franchise is, the XCOM franchise is a series of games about aliens invading the Earth. And typically they are known for very high difficulty and, very diverse, interesting turn-based gameplay as the humans try to overcome these aliens with massive technological superiority. Now, the Bureau XCOM Declassified is a very unique game because XCOM was actually very popular back in the early 90s, and then it kind of died out. They didn't really make any more games for it after a while, until recently they decided to have a resurgence of it, the series came back with the first game, XCOM Enemy Unknown. Now, before that, the Bureau XCOM Declassified is actually not a turn-based game. It's actually a third-person shooter squad-based game that has gone through so many changes and so many different people have been handling this game, and they've gone through so many different people, and now they finally say, okay, 2K Games has it. 2K Games is going to publish this game. Okay, so pretty much a lot of people were excited for this game because they thought XCOM Enemy Unknown was going to be silly. It looks very cartoony. And they weren't really taken as seriously because XCOM is, supposed to be very gritty, realistic, and brutal. And pretty much, people look forward to XCOM The Bureau, and it kind of was very lukewarm. So I'm going to talk about it now. So what exactly is the Bureau XCOM Declassified? The Bureau XCOM Declassified is a game taking place in the 1960s. You play as a man called William Carter, who, through various things that happen early on in the game, becomes involved in this alien invasion of Earth, and he is tasked by this group of people known as XCOM to basically save the planet from complete and utter destruction. Now, the story in and of itself starts out pretty cool, and then it kind of just stagnates. It kind of takes the predictable turns. Nothing major really happens. There are a few cool things that do happen, but for the most part, it's very predictable, okay? But the story isn't even the weakest part of the game. The game, the story, in fact, what I will say is I do like the 1960s vibe, okay? I think that they did a pretty good job of trying to place this game in the 1960s Cold War America. They're just like LA Noire. I'll say the same thing about LA Noire with the 1940s. They did a pretty good job here placing this game in the 1960s. So I'll give them that. Now, having complimented them, I think it's time we talk about what's really, really bad about this game, which is pretty much everything else. Well, it's not to say it's really, really bad. It's just to say that it's not original. It's not, fantastic. I'm going to be honest. This game pretty much has a very flimsy control scheme. So, for example, at one point, I want to actually pick up a weapon, I want to reload my weapon, but the same button that reloads your weapon, which is X and I guess square, actually will cause you to pick up a weapon off the ground. So, you end up, instead of reloading the gun you want, you end up picking up a weapon on the floor, and it's just like, well, that doesn't help me, because now I gotta pick up my other weapon, and in those tense moments where, you're in tight combat, you don't need that kind of problem. You don't need that kind of distraction. It's just very flimsy controls, very kind of unfiltered. It's like thought that it was good, but they didn't actually go out and test it to make sure that it wasn't, annoying or confusing in any way. And I think that's probably what really hurts this game the most. The fact that control scheme sometimes feels awkward. It's kind of hard to wrap your hands around it, especially when it does silly stuff like that. In the middle of a game so serious, you're trying to find any little bit of ammo you can, because ammo in this game is a real factor, unlike Enemy Unknown, and then you end up unable to find it, and you end up losing your gun. If you have to roll away from a grenade or something, or enemies are closing in, you might not get your gun back, and you might be screwed. And I just think that out of all the steps I just mentioned, having your reload button be the same as pick up something off the ground is just illogical. Most games do the hold to pick up, so I don't understand again why they couldn't do that with this game. But what's even worse than that, plays exactly like Mass Effect. You play as a commander, you lead a squad of 2 people around, and you have abilities. And it's just like every single part of this game in gameplay was done by the team who made Mass Effect. So, let me start you off. First of all, you in dialogue, when you're talking with people, just like in Mass Effect, there's a dialogue wheel where you point the stick towards the dialogue option you want to take, and then that's the dialogue option that your character then speaks. So, right off the bat, it's like it looks exactly like Mass Effect. There's also the good guy response and then the bad guy response that you can take, and it's just like right out of Mass Effect. And then once combat starts, okay, I know most third-person shooters are, pretty much the same, so I can't say, oh, it's a third-person shooter, da, da, da. That's not what I say they copied off of Mass Effect. What I do say they copied off of Mass Effect is literally having the exact same names as some of the abilities in Mass Effect. So, for example, in Mass Effect, there was an ability called Lift. That's in this game. For example, in Mass Effect, there was an ability to deploy a drone. That was in Mass Effect. Well, that's in this game. So in this game, there's also, There's like a super-powered sniper charging ability, exactly the same. It's like they didn't even go out of the way to change the names of these abilities. It's just like, why couldn't you at least type in a different name? You know what I mean? Why does it have to be the exact same thing? And I'm gonna be honest, gameplay is pretty much the same. You run around, you have your squad, you only can control the commander. If the commander dies, it's game over. But here's the XCOM lime wedge that they decide to put on top of this glass. If any of your squad mates get down, they bleed out. And if they bleed out, they're dead and they're gone for good and you lose them. That's the typical XCOM thing, so that's cool, It adds a little bit of a tactical desperation to the actual game. But that's marred by the fact that the enemy or the ally AI will actually tell your teammates to run out and basically die. For example, at one point, we were in a bad position. We were pinned down, and we need to kind of coordinate, work together here, and think about what we're going to do. And one of my teammates just decides to run right out, and he gets downed. I mean, we managed to save him, but it's like, why would you have the AI basically run out and almost kill itself? That puts me in danger because now I got to go out there and try and rescue him. That puts the other guy in danger because I won't be able to help him if anything happens with him. So why, I don't understand the logic behind that. So I'm very disappointed in that regard. For something that's, again, I know the game is supposed to be very difficult, but don't make it more difficult than it needs to be by having idiots run out and die, or basically put themselves in danger. And it's a shame because I actually was so very happy to play this game. And I come in, I sit down. All right, the story's pretty interesting, although it's kind of bland and slow. The gameplay is ripped and not that good. Ripped right from another game, and it's very, very poor. It doesn't bode well with the XCOM elements. The graphics are pretty much BioShock Infinite. Pretty much this whole game looks like BioShock Infinite reskinned over Mass Effect. And then the soundtrack is okay, I guess, it's a period time soundtrack, but I wish they had a little bit more diverse music, maybe in the bass they play a little bit of some other kind of music, I don't know, because even Enemy Unknown did that. Enemy Unknown was way more serious, and, Enemy Unknown, they played some pretty good music when you were in the bass, some almost relaxing music, so I'm sorry, I don't know what else really to think about this game. I know I will come back and beat this game. I think from what I've played, I'm up to the next to last mission or the last mission, from what I assume. So on one hand, I can basically say, oh, maybe the game will completely turn itself around in the 2 or 3 hours that I have left for gameplay. Or the more likely scenario is the game is just going to end on the exact same note that it's been going on this whole time. So, I'll be fair. I'll be honest. If the game suddenly becomes good for the last 30 minutes, I will redo this verdict. I will completely redesign it, be more fair, and come back. Or if the game doesn't do that, which I anticipate and I'm willing to bet money, I will basically, say, oh, too bad, and that's going to be the verdict for this game. So now I actually don't even know where I put the damn thing. This game, what I should say also is that the missions are either gruelingly long or extremely short, to the point where you can't, pretty much all the story missions are gruelingly long. Like what you would think, would have multiple chapters or something. They're just extremely, extremely long. And I don't know, why they couldn't, try and diversify it a bit. But on the other hand, I just have to say that because the gameplay isn't really that fun after the first, hour or two, thankfully the game is as short as it is, because it kind of sticks around for a while, and just a bad taste won't go away. So, pretty much at this point, I don't really want to play the game anymore. But I'll do it if I can get a friend to come over, because we can laugh, we can have fun. How Original says he doesn't mind watching it, so I'll bring him over and we'll do that. But for me, I'm bored. This is the kind of game I would buy, and I would just be like, oh shit, I fucked up. This game is not good at all. Because typically with a lot of these games, I do finish them, and it just so happens here that this game is not good. I don't think it's very good at all. So. But the problem is, it's not bad either, because it runs off of a very, very well-established formula. Basically, the Mass Effect formula. And it looks pretty good, you know what I mean? It looks decent, because, they did use the Bioshock kit for it. So, what would I give this game? Just because I'm going to keep this short, because there's not much to talk about here, because there's nothing that really wowed me, and there's nothing that really was so horrible that I have to bash it nonstop. So, what really would I give this game? I'd give this game probably the most average and bland rating I could ever give a game. I'm going to give this game a 74 out of 100. It's very, very bland. It's surprising, because I thought Splinter Cell would be the game that would, be the more boring of the two, and I wouldn't enjoy as much. And it turns out that was completely the opposite. Splinter Cell was kick-ass. Splinter Cell Blacklist, that is. These two games came out on the same day. Splinter Cell Blacklist was kick-ass, and this game was horrible. It was so boring and dry and bland. So if you really want to get this game, I suggest you wait till it drops in price, because actually they already had a sale on it within a month after its release, probably because it did horribly. So that's what I will say. If you want to get this game, wait for a sale, wait for a rent, or you just might want to skip it, period, because it's not that great. There's nothing particularly, to die for in this game. It's just kind of bland, boring, and out there. It's the pinnacle of mediocrity is what I'll give this game. I'll pin that award on it. The pinnacle of mediocrity. A game that basically stole everything that it does and has nothing unique for itself. So really, it's just your run-of-the-mill shooter with a little bit of XCOM hinted in, because, it's the aliens, the theme, and the fact that your squad mates can die. So it's pretty much, as I said, XCOM is like a lime wedge on this drink that is the Bureau. So you could easily have pretty much filtered out the XCOM in this game and just turned it into a generic shooter. So, very disappointing. A 74, obviously this could have been way, way better if they, actually put some effort into it. And hopefully, the Enemy Unknown franchise goes on and doesn't basically suffer in the same regard. So, I'm SpraynPray1000. I know this is one of the very quick review. I can already tell you the next episode, which is for Batman Arkham Origins, is pretty long. I apologize. Obviously some games have more meat to them, and I have to review them. Other games really don't. So sometimes the reviews can fluctuate in size. And I'll see you guys next time. I'm sorry if I sound a little bit congested. I did just wake up, so I gotta clear myself. Relax for a little bit and get my voice back. But Hopefully this was informative, because this game was